Hello class, welcome to Unit 8 Video 4. Today we're going to look at nth roots. Your learning target for today is that you can simplify radicals. We have looked at simplifying radicals before, and just to remind you, radicals are, like a square root sign. But today we're going to be looking at nth roots, so it might be the nth root of some number. Okay, so n would be some number. So we're going to look at that today. So let's go ahead. We have an example. The volume of a sphere can be found by using the volume formula, which is V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. Find the radius of the sphere if the volume is 225 centimeters cubed. Okay, volume is, so that means V equals 225. So I'm going to take this and plug it in for V. 225 is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, so I need to solve this for the radius. The way you go ahead and do that is we're first going to get rid of the 4/3. To get rid of a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal on both sides. Okay, this cancels, and I'm going to take 225 times 3/4. Divided by 4, and you get 168.75. So we have 168.75 equals pi r cubed. Now we're going to go ahead, and I still want to get r cubed by itself, but first I need to get rid of pi. This is multiplying here, so in order to undo, I would divide by pi. Okay, I'm not going to type this in my calculator yet because it's going to give me an irrational number, and I want to have the most exact radius. So what I have is r cubed. What I have is 168.75 over pi is equal to r cubed. Okay, just a little reminder, if I would have r squared is equal to 25, I would take the square root. Well, now I have a cube, so I'm going to take the cubed root. Okay, so the cubed root and the 3 cancel each other out on my radius side. So my radius is equal to the cubed root of 168.75 divided by pi. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and type that into my calculator. Now, everybody listen, you need to find the cube root button. It's on your calculator somewhere, on the 84. It's under math. Okay, so here is number 4 is the cubed root, and number 5 is the x root. So if we have other values, if this was a 4 or 5, you could use this button here. But number 4, cubed root, so we hit 4. Then it is 168.75 being divided by pi. And notice we want that to all be under my radical, which it is. Then we're going to go ahead and hit enter. So my radius, and I always say round to 3 decimal places, is 3.773. .773, and we should always label this as in centimeters. So there is my radius. Okay, so there's a little bit of an example that uses the cubed root, which is the third root, so an nth root. So we have powers. All right, we've already looked at them, but we have a squared is equal to 16. The roots then for that answer would be a is equal to the square root of 16, so a is equal to 4. Today, I just want to point out we are only looking for real roots. So we are not looking for imaginary. So this is a real root. One thing I want to point out, if you were given a squared is equal to 16, and I told you to solve that, you would say a is equal to plus or minus 4. Okay? If I tell you to solve the square root of 16, if the square root sign's already there, it's only the positive value, so it's equal to 4. So in this case, that's what we're talking about with the roots, is it already has the square root sign there. In words, the square root of 16 is 4. That's what you would say. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of negative 16. We're only looking for real roots today, so this one is a no real solution because this would be a complex number. Okay. Moving on to the a to the third is equal to 27. Okay. Then we're doing, if I want to figure this one out, a is equal to get rid of that 3, you do the cubed root of 27, which once again you can type in on your calculator. So we go math, cube root is at number 4, of 27. It's essentially what number 3 times multiplies to 27? 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So that answer is 3. All right, this next one's a little different. It's cube root of negative 27. So let's try if I can do that one. So math cube root of negative 27. That works. And the reason it works is because negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9 times negative 3 again will give you negative 27. So when it's odd, it will work. So my answer for this one is negative 3. Moving on, a to the fourth. Okay. The way we would solve this one is you would say a is equal to get rid of 4, you do the fourth root of 81. So type this in on your calculator. Fourth root, okay, we go hit 4 because it's not already given, so we do 4, and then you go math, and then you see how number 5 is the x root, number 5, now it's the fourth root of 81. That's going to give me an answer of 3. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, 4 times is 81, so that answer is 3. And then we're going to be asked to do the negative, so let's see if that would work. If we go ahead and do the fourth root, so 4 math, 5, negative 81. It says error, non-real answers. So that's what we would have gotten if we did square root of negative 16. Okay, so there it is. So that one's in error. Okay, so this one, fourth root of 81 was equal to 3. And this one is no real solution. Now we're going to do a to the fifth is equal to 32. So we need to go ahead. And we have a is equal to the fifth root of 32. If you do that one on your calculator, you would type 5, go to math. That's the fifth root of 32. What number 5 times multiplies to 32? 2. Could I do negative 32? I'm just going to arrow up and change this one. If you want, if you have this calculator, you can arrow up and you can go second insert, which is above the delete, and negative, and then hit enter. That one gives you negative 2. So this one gives me an answer of 2, and this one gives me an answer of negative 2. Okay. Now we need to look at is if I have a to the n is equal to b. Okay. Well, what it says is a is equal to the nth root of b, because in order to get rid of this, you would take the nth root, and those would cancel. So a is equal to the nth root of b, which is stated over here. So the nth root of b is a. Now, it says nth root of negative b. Well, let's notice something. If we had 2 and 4, it was a no real solution. So if the number is even, two, 4, 6, 8, those numbers, there is no real root. Okay. If n is odd, 3 and 5 and 7, look at, it's going to be a solution. So if n is odd, root exists and is negative. Right. So those are our basics with roots. Let's go ahead and just look at some examples. We need to simplify. So if it's not listed, one thing to notice is it's always a square root. Okay, so you can break it apart. We want to go ahead and say it's the square root of 25 times square root of x to the fourth. Okay, well, square root of 25 is 5. X to the fourth, it's really saying 4 divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So it's 5x to the second. Another way you can think about this, it's really 25 times x to the fourth is x times x times x times x. Okay. If it pairs up, it can be written out in front. Okay. And if it pairs up, it can be written out in front. So what I would have is square root of 25 is 5. I write this x out in front times this x, and then x times x is x squared, so it's 5x squared, which is what we had above. So two different ways of thinking about it. Neither one is more correct than the other. It's just what helps you think about it. Okay, number 2. This negative out in front is going to stay, so I'm just going to write it. Then we have the square root of something to the 8th power. Okay, so what it is I would take 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So I would have y squared plus 2 to the 4th. Here is what we need to talk about. Some people think you can just go ahead and divide these things by 2. You can't. This is one quantity being taken to a power. At first, it's the 8th. So once you go ahead and divide the 8 by 2, you're done. You only have to do it once. So this would be your final answer. Example 3. Now this one is a 5th root. Okay, so I'm just going to break it down. It's really the 5th root of 32 times the 5th root of x to the 15th times the 5th root of y squared. Let's do each one. The 5th root of 32. Maybe you don't know, maybe you remember it from the front side, but the 5th root of 32 is 2. So this will equal 2. 15 divided by 5, because it's a 5th root, okay, so it's x to the 3rd. 20 divided by 5 is to the 4th. So this would be your final answer. Once again, different way to think about it. Okay, let's break it down. The 5th root, okay, if I have the square root of x, remember that's really just x to the 1/2. If I have the nth root of x, it's really equal to x to the 1/n. So this one's a 5th root. So if I re-break this down, I'm going to have the 5th root of 32 times, it's really x to the 15th to the 1/5 times y to the 20th to the 1/5. So this gives me 2. Then I would say 15 times 1/5 will give you x to the 3rd. And 20 times 1/5 gives you 4. 20 divided by 5. So either way is perfectly fine about thinking it. But I would maybe write this on your paper, this at the top. Remember, square root of x is equal to x to the 1/2. The nth root of x is equal to x to the 1/n. All right, this right here is to the 2nd power, which is to an even root, and we are only looking for real solutions today. So this one is NRS, no real solution. Cannot take an even power and take the square root of a negative. Okay. All right, let's move on to number 5. We have the square root of y to the 6th. So remember, when it doesn't list anything, it's automatically the square root. Okay, so we can think about this as the square root of 81 times the square root of y to the 6th. Square root of 81, if you don't know, you can do this one on your calculator, 9. 9 times 9 is 81. Then this one's still a square root, so I take 6 divided by 2, which is 3. Number 6. We need to go ahead and break this down apart. So we have the 6th root of 729 times the 6th root of x to the 30th times the 6th root of y to the 18th. Okay. I don't know the 6th root of 729, so I'm going to do it on my calculator. So I would type 6, go to math, number 5, enter. So it's the 6th root of 729. And we get 3. So this is 3. 30 divided by 6 is 5, so I have x to the 5th. 18 divided by 6 is y to the 3rd. So my final answer is 3x to the 5th, y to the 3rd. Let's go ahead and flip to the back side, number 7. We have the 8th root of x to the 8th. So like I said before, we can really rewrite this as x to the 8th to the 1/8 power. What is 8 times 1/8? It's really 8 over 8, which is 1. So it's x to the 1st, so I would just say my answer is x. Okay. Number 8. I can break this one apart because it's a multiplication here. So I'm going to do the 4th root of 81 times the 4th root of a plus 1 to the 12th. So the fourth root of 81, once again, I don't know it, so I'm going to go to my calculator. I do 4, math, the x root is number 5, 81, enter. It is 3. So this is equal to 3. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and it's a quantity, so it's a plus 1 to the third. Okay, and that is it. There is my final answer for number 8. Number 9, it's a square root of 100x to the 10th. So I go ahead and I'm going to break it down. It's really square root of 100 times square root of x to the 10th. Square root of 100 is 10. This is really 10 divided by 2, which is 5. 10x to the 5th is my final answer. Then number 10 is very similar to number 8. I'm going to break it apart. It's really 64 times this. You can only break apart multiplication. You cannot break apart addition and subtraction. So it's the square root of 64 times the square root of y plus 1 to the 14th. Square root of 64, if you don't know, you can do it on your calculator, but it is 8. And then this is really squared, so 14 divided by 2 is 7, so it's y plus 1 to the 7th. So that is my final answer for number 10. Okay. If you need a break or you have any questions, write them down. We're going to move on to 2 word problems, and then we're going to call it a day for Unit 8, Video 4. So, number 11, the distance a planet is from the sun is a function of the length of its year. The formula, d equals the cubed root of 6t squared, where d is the distance of the planet from the sun in millions of miles. Okay, so let's write that down. So distance in millions of miles, and t is the number of Earth days in the planet's year. If the length of a year on Mars is 687 Earth days, how far is the sun from Mars? All right, so the length of years on Mars. So which part is representing Mars? Well, t is our Earth days. And this is representing our Earth days. So we're going to plug in 687 for t. So d is equal to, because we're trying to figure out how far, so we're trying to find d, that's the cubed root of 6 times our t, 687 squared. Okay, first thing we need to do is rules of exponents, order of operations, which says parentheses. Well, there's nothing inside of here, so then it's exponents. So I have to square this first. So it's the cubed root of 6 times 687 squared. 471,969. Okay, if I multiply 6 times this, you get 2,831,814. Now I need to just go ahead and type that in on my calculator. It's the cubed root of, so we got to go to math, get the cubed root of 2,831,814, enter. And we get 141.4777816. So let's write that down. So D is equal to 141.4777816. The trick here is it says in millions of miles. So let's actually put this in millions. So a million is 6 zeros. So I'm going to move it over 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. So my distance is really equal to 0.6 miles. That's how far the sun is from Mars. 141,477,781.6 miles. Okay, that is example 11. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we're moving on to example 12. Okay, the stone spheres of Costa Rica were made by forming granodite boulders into spheres. One of the stone spheres has a volume of about 111,000 113,097.34 inches cubed. What is the diameter of the stone sphere? We want to find diameter. We are given volume, and here's our equation for volume of a sphere. So volume is 113,997.34 is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. So this is very similar to our problem beginning at the beginning of the notes. How many times can I say beginning? It's like the problem at the beginning of the notes. So let's solve it. The way I did it is first get rid of the fraction. Multiply by the reciprocal. Those cancel. When I multiply this on my calculator, you get 84,823.005 is equal to pi r cubed. Now I would divide by pi. So 84,823.005 divided by pi is equal to r cubed. And to get r by itself, I would take the cubed root. Okay, so this is where I go ahead and I get my calculator out to figure out what r is. It's the cubed root. So math, cubed root, 84823.005 divided by pi, so second pi, which is above the caret here, enter. So my radius is 30.0000004, okay? And I'm going to write that down. Rounding the 3 decimal places, I would just have 30. So my radius is 30, but it's asking for diameter. So my diameter, remember, is twice my radius, so that means it's 60, and I would label it inches. So my diameter is 60 inches. Okay, that's going to be it for Unit 8 Video 4. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have a great day.